I think multi-threading is pretty critical. And I think if you don't do it well, it can create problems and friction. And I think if you do it well, it can create a lot more support and help you get to a closure that is supported across an organization. The first thing I try to remember, and I tell maybe newer sellers, is you're going to be selling to multiple personas who are going to be different. Your developers are going to care about some things that are going to be different than people on AppSec. Whether you're in development or AppSec, the management team is going to care about things a little bit differently than either of those individual contributors. Then those directors want to have insights that are going to be different than the people below them. And then if you look at, senior directors, CIO, CISO, et cetera, CTO, they are thinking high level, right? They don't necessarily care exactly about what the developer cares about, but they want to understand the larger strategy there. So make sure when you're going into it, you know how you're going to sell to those different personas. And each one of those should have a point of view of why they care. You want to make sure you have your champion, and you don't want to go necessarily above your champion. I think almost every seller I know has gotten their hand slapped by going above their champion to get to a director or CIO for the same initiative and say, hey, why did you go above me? So one thing I always try to ask is, who else might care about this initiative? If we continue to get momentum, who's going to be able to say, no, we're not going to do this? Who might, we have to convince to say, yes, this is a good idea. So that way you kind of get some ideas of, okay, here are people we have to get support of. Here's people who could say no. And then I'll say, when would it make sense for us to bring them into the conversation? Because I want to make sure we address all their concerns as we support your effort. So I try to keep my champion in control, or the perception of control, where really it's like, but let's bring these people in, get them informed on what you're working on. Because oftentimes a champion wants to be that change agent to say, hey, I brought in this really great idea. I brought in GitLab. And they don't want to be usurped. So it's about asking them and gaining their support of who all would want to review this. What does it look like? And then I think successful multi-threading also requires an agreed action plan. So these take time, but it's really valuable when you say who's going to be doing what. And when you bring that to the table and you say, here are all the people who are going to have to sign off. That means we need meetings with all of these people. I usually put it in a spreadsheet. What are our target dates? And I'll do this with my champion. And then I'll ask, what are we missing? I'm like, okay, well, security's definitely got to sign off on this. Great. Who from security should we be meeting with? And when I talk to security, I focus on the visibility, the dashboard. Let's see how the health of our projects, right? So I sell to them, position to them a little bit differently. Each time I talk to a different person, I also care about their required capabilities, right? The developer's required capabilities are going to be slightly different than AppSec's, right? And the manager maybe want to have dashboards. So you want to, in each conversation, say, hey, if we do a POV, what do you really want to see? What's a requirement for you to say, yes, I support this and this will be successful. So now I'm also capturing required capabilities for each persona, and then I aggregate those. So then when we do a POV, we can then check those all off. And so at the end of it, I say, hey, this is completed. And now we have a reason to move forward. So I think multi-threading is important. I think deals can close without it. It's just not as strong, right? Not as well. Versus if you have a lot of people's buy-in and you have all of their requirements and you check it off, it's very easy to move forward and say, hey, we've met everyone's needs that we knew of that had to support this. They're all nodding their head yes. So then it's much easier to then go get your purchase order.